Imagine standing right in the path of a volcanic eruption so massive that it blows the tops off of mountains and blankets entire continents in ash. Now imagine that happening not just once but several times throughout history, each time with enough force to alter the course of civilization itself. Well, stop imagining because it actually happened and we have the evidence to prove it. Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to unearth the hidden evidence of 4 of the most violent eruptions in Earth's history. So buckle up, because this is going to be one heck of a ride. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we have a ton of awesome videos coming your way. Also, stick around until the end because we have a super cool infographic to share with you. Our story starts about 74,000 years ago, when humans were making cave paintings and woolly mammoths were roaming the earth. Then, suddenly, POW, a massive explosion, ripped through the Earth's crust so violently that it was heard thousands of kilometers away. The culprit was Mount Toba in Indonesia. In a single day, it unleashed a staggering 2,800 cubic kilometers of ash and pumice, enough material to cover the entire state of Florida, nearly 46 meters deep. The blast was so forceful that it sent a thick layer of ash over Southeast Asia and even managed to reach South America. What's really mind-blowing is that the eruption was so big that it almost certainly killed all life within 300 kilometers of the volcano and likely wiped out many more lives across the globe. But hold on, because this is where things get really interesting. Scientists believe that the eruption had such a devastating impact on global climate patterns that it may have triggered an ice age. Talk about a major meltdown. Here's how it went down. As the massive cloud of ash and gas rose into the atmosphere, it blocked out the sun, causing temperatures to plummet by as much as 3 degrees Celsius. But that's just the start of the story. The eruption also unleashed huge amounts of sulfur dioxide, which reacted with water vapor in the atmosphere to form sulfuric acid. This acid then bounced back and forth between the atmosphere and the surface for years, forming a thick layer of aerosols that reflected sunlight away from Earth's surface. This effect alone could have kept temperatures low for as long as 1,000 years. It was like a never-ending winter. And given that humans hadn't invented central heating yet, this would have been pretty brutal. Our ancestors would have had to deal with freezing temperatures, dwindling food supplies, and maybe even some angry walruses. But hey, they survived, right? And speaking of surviving, our next supervolcanic eruption was actually 2 eruptions, and these took place in what is now the Long Valley caldera in eastern California. The first eruption was about 760,000 years ago, spewing out an estimated 2,600 cubic kilometers of material. And then about 600,000 years later, POW, there was another eruption that blew out an additional 1,600 cubic kilometers of material. That's a 1-2 punch that would knock any volcano out for 1,000,000 years. But humans didn't have to worry about these guys because they were busy building pyramids in Egypt. But don't worry, we have plenty of other stuff to talk about. For example, scientists discovered something really cool after the second eruption. They found a layer of ash in the sediments at the bottom of Mono Lake, a salty lake in the eastern Sierra Nevada mountains. And this ash layer is from the first eruption 760,000 years ago. It's like a little piece of the past that helps us understand what life was like back then. It's also helped scientists better understand the environmental impacts of the eruptions. For example, scientists used the ash layer to study how the eruptions affected the chemistry of the lake. They found that the acidity of the lake changed dramatically after the first eruption, which suggests that the eruptions had a major impact on the environment. Not only did these eruptions release huge amounts of gas and ash into the atmosphere, but they also caused significant changes in the local environment. The ash and debris from the eruptions covered vast areas of California and Nevada, creating thick layers of material that preserved in some places. These layers have provided scientists with a wealth of information about the eruptions themselves and their impact on the surrounding environment. For example, scientists have been able to study the chemistry of the ash to learn more about the composition of the magma that erupted. They've also analyzed the pollen and plant remains in the ash layers to learn about how the eruptions affected local plants and animals. And now for a supervolcano eruption that you might have heard of before. We're talking about Yellowstone supervolcano in the United States. Over the past 2 million years, this bad boy has had 3 major eruptions that have shaped the landscape of the western United States and influenced global climate patterns. And let's not forget the recent activity. Just last year, more than 300 earthquakes were recorded in the region, which is more than double the normal rate, so it might be worth keeping an eye on. The first eruption was way back when, around 2.1 million years ago. It unleashed an estimated 2,500 cubic kilometers of ash and rock, covering vast areas of what is now the western United States. The second eruption was much more recent, occurring around 1.3 million years ago. It released an estimated 900 cubic kilometers of ash and rock, much less than the first eruption, but still enough to have a major impact on the surrounding environment. And then there's the most recent eruption, which occurred around 640,000 years ago. It released an estimated 1,000 cubic kilometers of ash and rock, and left behind the massive Yellowstone caldera, also known as the Great Rift. Each of these eruptions was unique and had its own distinct impact on the surrounding environment. For example, the youngest eruption led to the formation of the Yellowstone caldera, a large depression in the ground that is now filled by Yellowstone Lake. The eruptions also had far-reaching impacts on global climate patterns. The massive amounts of ash and gas released into the atmosphere helped to cool the planet for decades or even centuries, leading to major shifts in precipitation and temperature. The eruptions also led to the formation of vast ash deposits that covered large areas of the western United States. These deposits have since eroded away, but they have left behind rich layers of ash in the geologic record that scientists can study today. The eruptions also had a profound impact on the plants and animals in the region. The massive amount of ash and debris killed off much of the native vegetation and made it difficult for plants to grow. This, in turn, affected the animals that relied on those plants for food and shelter. Finally, we have one of the most well-documented supervolcanic eruptions in history, Krakatoa in Indonesia. On August 27, 1883, Krakatoa unleashed its fury on the world, sending a massive cloud of ash and gas miles into the sky. The explosion was so loud that it could be heard over 2,000 kilometers away in Australia. Entire villages were wiped out, and giant tsunami waves rolled across the Sunda Strait, killing thousands. It was a catastrophic event that left a lasting impact on the people and environment of the region. Krakatoa is a volcano that had been brewing for years, and scientists believe that a series of smaller eruptions built up the pressure that eventually led to the cataclysmic event of 1883. The build-up of pressure beneath the sea floor created a massive amount of energy that was released in a matter of hours. The explosion was so powerful that it could be heard thousands of kilometers away, and the shockwave from the blast circled the globe several times. It is estimated that the eruption threw over 36 cubic kilometers of rock and ash into the air, which is equivalent to the weight of over 36 billion people. The immediate impact of the eruption was devastating. Entire villages near the volcano were wiped out, and the surrounding area was covered in a thick layer of ash. The explosion also triggered giant tsunami waves that rolled across the Sunda Strait, inundating coastal communities and killing thousands. The force of the tsunami was so powerful that it reached heights of up to 30 meters. In the aftermath of the eruption, survivors struggled to cope with the destruction and loss of life. The Indonesian government quickly mobilized relief efforts to provide food, water, and medical care to those who had survived. The eruption of Krakatoa was a devastating event that had a profound impact on the people and environment of the region. The loss of life and destruction of property was immense, and the recovery process was slow and challenging. However, the eruption also captured the attention of scientists and researchers around the world who were fascinated by the power and destructive capabilities of volcanoes. Now, if you want to know more about volcanoes, check out this video right here. It's super cool and has a lot of great info. So click on it and see you there.